All right, it is NBA draft preview time. And to do that, I'm joined by Matt Modderno. He, a man of many, many hats that all kind of come together for this one moment. Host of Believe in Wizards, contributor over at Sleepers Media. You're like the spiritual advisor to the GW Basketball Insiders. Am I missing anything here?
That's enough, unfortunately. It's keeping me busy, but it means we get to talk more hoops, and always happy to find an excuse for us to get together. So I love draft season.
Yeah, and it's a really easy starting place here because the Wizards do have the number one pick. So, had you not been studying the draft stuff, you would have been deep into that for the last couple of weeks anyway. Where are we at in terms of prediction on Debanza odds at this point? It seems all the breadcrumbs and hints seem to be like this is going to happen.
It's funny. I feels like every major draft pundit just really doesn't want that to happen. Like it's just it seems like it's Boozer or Peterson on all these other marquee mock drafts, and then everyone else is like, well, all the smoke is AJ DeBonta is going to Washington. Even DeBonta himself, like when he gets asked about the draft, he's like, I'm so excited to play in John Wall City. So I think he thinks it's a foregone conclusion so far of any of the credible reporting. He's the only one we know that's worked out for the Wizards of the three guys who could theoretically go number one. So I think it's pretty much a done deal, but you never really know.
ESPN during the finals the other day gave the graphic of likely number one pick AJ DeBonsa, which I thought
Yeah.
was weird for the network carrying the draft. It wasn't
Right.
like, oh, Jonathan Gavoni's number one prospect or whoever
Hmm.
ESPN does their ratings at this point.
Yeah.
I think Gavoni might be gone, but
And the Gavoni's still there. It's him and
okay,
Wu. They kind of
good.
split it. So I like they both did individual mock drafts where one had Peterson and the other one had Boozer. And I was like, what are we doing here? I don't know.
The moment he sat through the entirety of a 4.5 hour match of noted Washington Wizards superfan Francis Tiafoe
Yeah.
was what kind of sealed it for me.
I think so. Like he's trying to embrace DMV culture, and one, we'll love him here for doing that. So smart move. But yeah, like he did the Marcus Spears interview and was like, "Oh man, DC is going to be lit." And it's like, all right, he's banking on being a Wizard at the very least. So at least we don't have to hear the dumb, "Oh, he kept a straight face during the draft when the Wizards number one, won the number one pick combo" anymore.
So I mean, you are a true Wizards guy. You're in there in the DMV at a lot of the home games. In addition to doing the pod, is this the right choice at number one?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's got as good a ceiling as the other guys to me, if not even, you could make the argument more so. If you want to say Peterson has a higher ceiling, fine. But to me, he's got a higher ceiling than Boozer, could have at least as high a ceiling as Peterson, definitely has a higher floor than Peterson, and is probably similar floor to Boozer. So, if you're the safe pick and have the same amount of upside, I don't know why you wouldn't do this. I also just think he fits with guys they look for. Like obviously he shot a ton this year and scored a lot, but not an unwilling passer. And so I think that fits in something they look for, positional size, athleticism most of the time. Uh, and guys that are usually above average ball handlers relative to their size. So he's not a Kyrie Irving, but for a 6'9" guy, he handles the ball pretty well. They seem to like that. And I do think if you're committed to trying the Trey Young thing out seriously for the next couple of years, insulating him with athletes on the wing who at least profile as guys who could turn into good defenders or at least disruptors, I think is also pretty smart too.
Yeah, and you look at some of the highest floor guys of the last decade or so, and it's a lot of the elite prospects. It's like the Anthony
Yeah,
Davises of the world.
right.
Like, what the hell was the scenario where Anthony Davis wasn't an above average starter other than health?
Exactly.
And it is, to me, both Debanta and Boozer fit into a rarefied air of guy who is not a no doubt number one pick franchise changer. They might
Hmm.
still be. They're not
Sure.
guaranteed to be, but they have the floors of the Anthony Davises, the Cooper Flags,
Yeah.
I, and that's the big difference for me between Debanta and Peterson.
Hmm.
Peterson has all of kind of the Ben Simmons. Like, are we sure he actually cares about playing
Yeah.
basketball at all? AJ DeBanza is gonna score 18 points a game at worst as an
All right.
NBA rookie, no matter what.
Hmm.
And you just for someone who could also end up being a 10-time All-Star, the ceiling is that high. It's really hard to pass up on the guy that you know will be above average at the number one most important skill in the league from the second he shows up.
I think that's super well said. And there is a contingent of Wizards fans that don't really love him, and Peterson's their guy, and they always like try to slander DeBonsa by saying like, "Oh, well, why would we draft Andrew Wiggins?" It's like, well, Andrew Wiggins is also like a guy that scored 24 points per game for an entire season of NBA basketball. So it's not like he's this total bust. If the floor is Andrew Wiggins, like I think that's actually not all that bad. And this is a dude that, I think won an NBA title with Golden State and has just been a pretty darn good player for his NBA career. His average career 18 points per game and 4.5 rebounds and 2.5 assists. Like, if that's worst case for DeBonta, I'll take it. Whereas, like, I don't know, I go back to them with like worst case for Darren Peterson is Austin Rivers. Like, which of those two guys would you take? And I don't think he'll be that, but I also, it's not a 0% chance either.
Yeah, Andrew Wiggins was an NBA All-Star
Right.
and the second best player on a title team. So
Yeah.
it's not that it's it's a career that's kind of like trying to think of the right way to say this, but if he's the number nine pick instead of the number one pick,
Mm.
we just think of his career better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it'd be a steal at that point, not oh, he wasn't a franchise guy, so he's a bust.
So maybe it's because the Knicks have just sucked up so many airwaves. I'm kind of surprised at just the lack of the one versus two versus three versus four
Hmm.
debates going on the last couple of weeks. Because I mean, this has a chance to maybe be the greatest top four the league has ever seen, which is insane considering the top four that we saw 11 months ago, where Dylan Harper was clearly the worst of the four in the regular season and is probably the second best player on a finals team at the moment. And so just how do you rank the top four at the moment?
Yeah, it's an interesting parallel to the other year. I go back and forth with this a lot. Like DeBonta is just again high ceiling, high floor, safe number one to me. But I would probably have Peterson as the 1B there just because if he does hit the best, outcome of what he could be, like that's such a valuable player. Whereas it's a bigger risk. I just don't think the ceiling is as high with Boozer. If he's like Al Horford one day, like that's still pretty valuable. I think maybe he can do some more wing things in the NBA than we saw at Duke. So maybe there's a little more ceiling there that we didn't get to see. But he and Caleb Wilson, I've gone back and forth with a lot of who to have at three, and it kind of depends on which one I've watched most recently. I think Wilson should eventually be the better defender because he's got more tools and is more explosive, but was also kind of bad at that this year. Doesn't shoot it the same way, but the fact that he averaged 20 and 10 without being a legitimate sniper is impressive. So if that comes around, I think the chances he hits his highest outcome are lesser than Boozer, but if he does, then that could be a higher level player. So I struggle with that one. Any sense for you, like one way or the other, how you would go kind of the next couple picks?
Yeah, I mean, last year it was kind of a top five around this point, it felt like, with those
Yeah.
four and Ace Bailey. And I
Hmm.
found it insulting to people's intelligence that Ace Bailey was even in the conversation with those guys. I feel like I could
Yeah,
take a
at the
victory
expense
lap on
of
that one, but
Knipple in a lot of places too. Like there
yeah.
were like especially again, I'm mostly locked in on Wizards fans. I mentioned Khan as like a guy with an all-star upside, and I got like laughed out of town last year. And it was like, nah, Ace Bailey, bro, like he's the truth. He's KD. It's like actually he doesn't play anything like Kevin Durant, other than they're a similar height. But okay, sure.
And this year, the point of where I'm going with this, I think I just continue to drift towards Peterson as the fourth,
Okay,
which is really a testament to Boozer and
sure.
Wilson and their overall skill. But
Hmm.
someone taking Peterson two, I
There's
just
some
wouldn't
risk.
feel
Yeah,
like it's idiotic.
yeah, I agree.
Versus last year, I would have just laughed at the idiocy of Ace Bailey over VJ
At number two.
Edgecombe.
Yeah.
Like, I I'd say at the moment I'm probably Boozer two, Peterson three, Wilson four.
Mhm.
But it's the Boozer ceiling has messed with my brain for months now.
Yeah,
I feel like he might actually have a higher floor than Cooper Flag.
I can
He's
see it.
just going to be a guaranteed 18 and 8 for a very, very long time in this league.
Yeah.
But I continue to just not be able to find my way into what's the path to eight-time All-Star Cam Boozer. Like I just keep
Yeah.
seeing like 5% better Carlos Boozer reincarnate.
Yeah, it's slightly better passer, better jump shot. Boozer, I think, is reasonable. Like, but we kept hearing about, oh, he's got all these limitations that Cooper Flag didn't have, and then he just was better at Duke, like in a vacuum. The team was similar, and his individual numbers were better. I'd say it's fair to say he had less help overall, and it just was really good for most of the year until a team figured out, like, huh, maybe we should let the guards try to win us the game. So I just can't see a world where he's bad, and I think that's important too. I can see a world where Peterson doesn't work out, and I don't buy that he's the best guard prospect since Kobe kind of stuff. To me, he's
No.
like he's good, and if he's top 1% outcome of him, I do think it's like a could be a Hall of Fame level player. It's just there was some weird stuff this year, and it's hard to get past. The thing with like Peterson, I can't get past too, is like the people that really love him are like, man, he's an elite defender, and AJ sucks, and who does Boozer guard in the league? It's like I didn't actually see anything I found all that positive about Peterson defensively this year personally. So I don't even have like that to hang back on. Is like maybe he's more two-way than one of these other guys are. So I don't know. But look, if somebody goes any order of those top four guys, I'm not going to give them a hard time at all. Like I could make a case for any of them, I think.
So moving down the board here, because then we get this elite cadre of guards and
Yeah,
a bunch of guys where it just feels like in a normal year, one of them would have snuck up to like the number three pick.
yeah.
But if I give you a group of Wagler, Acuff, Brown Jr., Flemings, Burries, and then we'll throw a Ment in there, even though he's not a guard, but favorite, least favorite out of that group.
I like Mikel Brown. I was just so big on him through all the FIBA years that I was like most excited to see him play college basketball this year. I think he was definitely up and down, but it's easy to explain when someone has a back problem. I would caveat this fully with you need to make sure that the medical thing is taken care of and that's not a lingering back issue. So like Mikel Brown Jr. with a back problem was still dunking on people, and Keaton Wagler, we just now saw a video of him dunking for the first time, and even that kind of looked like a struggle. So the athleticism relative to what they did on the court, I would just go Brown Jr. The highs were pretty high, like they were comparable to Wagler in terms of like their best moments, and I just could see him more consistently hitting that top end outcome. And maybe he's a less safe pick. You could make a case for Wagler's the better shooter. I love Flemings. He was actually probably my favorite of the guys to watch in college basketball this year, but he's probably my least favorite of the point guard group there, just from like is mid-range pull-ups the thing you want from an undersized point guard, or at least not an oversized point guard? That makes me a little nervous. I kind of don't get Burries as much as other people, so he's probably my least favorite of that group, but I've still got him 9 on my board. So, like, I do really believe that that is a cluster of people altogether. Any guys that stand out above the rest for you?
Yeah, the Brown Jr., I feel like had if we took his best against everyone else's best,
Yeah.
and that NC State game on that Monday night where he just utterly laid waste to them. And that was another guy though that like Peterson, there was some questions about, oh, how hurt is the back?
Hmm.
His seemed to be a lot more legit than
Yeah, there
Peterson's,
were some nights you
but
could see where he did not
yeah.
have it physically, and then was still fine. Like he still made it work. So I think there's something to that too.
The A cuff ceiling is what just continues to kind of tantalize me. And
Hmm.
that's and the Mikel Brown Jr. ceiling's nice too, but
Sure.
if I'm a crap team, like when you're looking at Brooklyn and Sacramento and all these teams just kind of littered around that five-ish pick range,
Yeah.
I feel like I'd almost just swing at A cuff, and you might have someone who could be as great of a scorer as Debanza at this level, just
Yeah.
without the other intangibles.
If we look up in 3 years and he's more athletic Darius Garland and just like scores 22 a game and is super effective, and they don't need him to guard anybody. I mean that's a hard guy to pass up on, and I don't think that's like unrealistic either.
Would anything make you feel worse about a prospect's future than the Kings taking Nate Ament?
Ooh, that's a tough one for my guy here. He's from the DMV area, so I always root for him. I do think there are certain things he needs to work, and the development path needs to be very specific, and I don't trust them to do that. So, yeah, that's the one I would least like to see. Whereas, like, if you just put a cuff there, I feel like he works out
Yeah.
regardless, and you don't even have to think about it.
He's just Tyreek Evans 2.0 at
Yeah,
that
or
point.
even could he turn into DeAndre
Yeah.
Fox, or like one of those kind of guys, De'Aaron Fox. Jeez, long day.
Yeah, I mean, Ament, that feels like the number one, oh, Sacramento took him. His career is dead in 6 months
Yeah,
candidate because,
where is he 3 years from now? Like it's kind of like what happened with like a Keegan Murray of just
yeah.
he's good when he plays. The injuries are kind of weird, but you still never really hear that much about him.
Even
Oh,
Brooklyn, like maybe Jordy Fernandez is a good coach, and we just
yeah.
find that out in 2 years. But every one of those guys should have their agents just doing everything they can to make sure they don't go seven.
hmm
But
yeah, that's a real tough spot in the draft where it's like I mean, if you're Acuff, I could see him being the guy that like wants the smoke and would want to go there and just be the star of a rebuild and again kind of power through it no matter what. So he's probably the one that's like, yeah, I'll go there. I'm good. But he may also just be gone by then.
what do you do with a Daymara? Because I feel like 2 years ago he's just going back to Michigan because he's 52 on everyone's board. And we stopped properly valuing centers.
hmm
And there was that brief moment where you could just always get a good center for 3 million bucks or go get one in the second round. And the Wemby thing, I feel like probably swung this a little too far. And you have everyone convinced OKC's just going to take Mara because he's seven
Right.
foot three and he can conceivably guard Wemby. I really like him. I would have loved to steal him in the second round a couple seasons ago, but he's still just not that mobile center
hmm
who is supposed to be a lottery pick. And I feel like this might be the 1 to maybe 2 year period where we swung too far back this way.
It is such a reactionary league where like a couple dominoes falling like just really have a like that sort of triggering effect on all these other teams. So I could see him getting overdrafted because of that, but teams are also creative now and playing out of like a high hub big. Like, could you do some of the poor man's Jokic things with him? Like maybe. I'm not comparing him to Jokic anyway. Nobody take that the wrong way, but just like a big that you could run offense around from the elbow. Like we've seen some of that stuff work. So there's at least some little like pockets of things you can see and pull from with him that you could make work. I'm lower than most. I was just trying to pull this up in real time. I have him 19th on my board, whereas I think like consensus for him is somewhere in the lottery, at least the back half of the lottery.
ESPN has him 10.
Yeah. That seems to be about where most people are, somewhere in that range. Like the rookie scale consensus mock is like my favorite thing to look at because it aggregates all those other major mock big boards, and they've got him 11. So that means most people, that are reputable at this average him out in that range, and that's too rich for my blood personally.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to look at that end part of the lottery now. Maybe Warriors, Hornets, they definitely need some help at the center position,
Sure.
but just pick random team X. I'd rather just have one of the Michigan forwards.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
Yaxel Lendenborg's we know exactly what he is. He's just going to score, he's going to rebound. He'll probably be a little bit slow-footed, but he should be just an offensive monster
hmm
coming off the bench for somebody next season.
I have Yaxel kind of low too, relative to I think where a
Okay.
lot of
See,
people.
I feel like I'm actually probably higher than consensus on Yaxel, but
Okay. Where are you thinking? Like, what's the ideal range for him?
like I think he'd be my first guy after that second tier guards we just talked about.
Okay.
Like once you get through the Flemings and the Wogglers, and I also don't look at age at all. I don't
Yeah,
care because by the time you're too old, you're not going to be on the team that drafted you anyway.
sure.
So if I'm the Warriors and I'm going for this one more time, and I can get 3 instant impact years out of Axel Lendenborg, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think for certain teams too, it's like if you're in that OKC late lottery range, they could just find a way to make him an impact player tomorrow. So he's 12 on this consensus board. So I'm not crazy low. I've got him 20. It's not like I think he stinks. I like Morez Johnson Jr. the best of those three, and I don't have him crazy higher than them. I think I have him 13, so not like a big gap. But just for me, like that's an easy plug and play center that's athletic and gets up and down the court and can be an athlete and switch a little bit and maybe eventually step out and shoot a little bit here too.
So we'll jump around a smidge here just because we're talking
Sure.
about Mara, and I wanted to get to him eventually. But Henry Vasar,
Mm,
who I think was probably my favorite player to watch in all of college basketball last year.
okay, I liked him too.
And I just can't understand how this guy's about to be a first round pick. I look at him like current old man Jonas Valanciunas on the Nuggets, where sure, toss him in 15 minutes off the bench in the regular season. He can get you buckets. He's a really good big to big passer. He's way too slow to be in the NBA. I don't see what the hell his role is defensively. And I just don't think he's enough of a creator to become like a poor man's Domantas Sabonis or something, which is what I'd basically need to use a first round pick on him.
I think it says a lot about where this draft starts to fall off that the guys maybe 22 to 42 are relatively close in terms of overall level. So I don't think he's a world beater by any stretch, but he was decently impactful defensively. He's not immobile. I buy the shooting, so I think that's part of it.
I do too. I will note I agree with that.
If you get a real 7 footer who was at least a defensive player of impact at the college level, he's exclusively a drop coverage big in the NBA. He's probably a career backup, but if you can lock up a backup center that stretches the floor and allows you to play five out at 25, like I think that's actually probably decent value this year.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's I guess we should note for people who aren't just constantly paying attention to the discussions on the internet that the NIL just really kind of screwed up the end of the first
Yeah.
round, top of the second, where like Tunde Yesufu would just be in this draft instead of going to St. John's if it's 4 years
I
ago.
had him in the lottery personally, or right around it. I was huge on him, at least in the top 20. So, um, yeah, I'm with you. I would rather take a guy like that than a 22 and a half year old that I'm kind of met on.
Okay, so I got the consensus up so that we're on the same page here. If anyone's looking, it's rookiescale.com
Mhm.
if you want to follow along. But we more or less covered the top 12 for them.
Sure.
So if we go here 13 through, let's cut it off Joshua Jefferson at 32, since that's a name that college basketball fans are going to know quite well. Um, one or two guys in that group that you really like, one or two that you just feel like even in this weaker middle draft, you would still bump down.
Yeah, I like Cam Carr. I feel good about him going somewhere in that range. I like Phylon.
I
I'm lower
I
than
really
most
like
on Kareem
Phylon.
Lopez, Bennett Sturts. Yeah, same. I don't know how he doesn't score on an NBA court, and I think he'll be a nightmare with even more space and guys that you can't sag off of to try to like wall him off. So I think I just don't see how that offense doesn't translate. So that would be a no-brainer for me. Sturts in the 20s is kind of crazy to me personally. I don't know who he guards. I actually like Alan Graves, but I don't like him at 23. Like that's too rich for my blood for a WCC backup this year, personally. But I know those are kind of the main ones I'm not super in on. Uh, Abuka Corey, I like. He's in the down in the 20s, but I think he's fine. Steinbach is probably the one I go back and forth on the most. Like he's essentially a 6'10" like non-stretch power forward who doesn't really profile as a great defender. It's typically not a guy I would like a lot, but was also just really productive as a freshman. So guys like that usually like his analytical profile is like someone that usually pops in the league. So yeah, he's the one I move up and down the most depending on how much I've locked in on him recently.
Yeah, Phylon just gets kind of screwed by this. weird glut of guards
Yeah,
in
the
tier
wave of
two.
guards.
Yeah, he should just be
Yeah,
like the number 8 pick in a normal draft. And instead, Miami's going to get him at
right.
13. And it's just going to be beyond infuriating when they
Yeah,
trade all their guards for Giannis. And it's just Yakashunis and LeBaron Philon
yeah,
both just making people regret passing on them.
that's true.
Corey, he still just feels a little slight to me.
Hmm.
He That's just an awesome get him on a contender who needs some instant offense off the
Yeah.
bench. And I think he could immediately be an impactful guy, but I never, I just don't see the ceiling of him as like a long-term above average starter in this league. But I'm looking at the board here, like
In the
Denver at
20s, I
20.
like him as a
So
back. Yeah, that's a good backup to me, not my starting point guard long term.
the Cavs at 29 for when Harden inevitably takes another step down next year. Minnesota. Well, yeah, because Dante's out for next year, so kind of slot him into the Dosunmu role with Dosunmu either moving on or becoming a starter. Like I feel like he'd be great in any of those spots. Starts, I it feels too high, but I don't hate it.
Just he's so good offensively, and he'll kill in ball screens. And I buy the shooting, and I think he can play off ball. Like they had to hide him defensively at Iowa this year. What does an NBA team do with that?
Yeah, I that's the problem. He feels like the guy who senior point guard just goes 37 most years.
Right,
And then we
exactly.
look back and we're like, oh my God, Malcolm Brogdon was a second round pick.
Yeah,
What great value. And if you just never expect him to start in his career, he's a great pick.
yeah. But at 19
Yeah.
or 17 or 22 or wherever, it's a different level of expectation for sure.
Run your offense 15 minutes a game, you're thrilled with it.
Yeah, great.
Um, Isaiah Evans in like the last 5 picks of the first round to a contender feels like the most appropriate thing in all of this. Just come in, bomb some
Yeah.
threes. I He took so many strides offensively just as a secondary playmaker and as
Hmm.
off the bounce last year. I don't feel like that translates great to the NBA,
Hmm.
but it's enough that you can't run at him and not be afraid that he can put the ball on the deck. So
Right.
that feels perfect. Just toss him to somebody good at 27 and just run with it.
Every team seems like they could find a way to use that kind of guy, and when you don't have to rely on him to do more than what he's good at, I think that's just a no-brainer, easy, addition to a, like you said, to a contender.
Yeah, he's big enough and physical enough to hold up okay defensively too.
For being like a slender guy, I think he does a really good job on that end of things.
Yeah, he's tough. I
Yeah,
think that's the biggest thing. He will stick his chest into guys and just feels like someone that is not going to get switched on to over and over again in a playoff game.
right. I'm totally with you.
The one I'm looking at on the other side, like, do we have any tangible proof that Jaden Quaintance is good at all?
I did a sleepers video on him today, so I've caught up on the tape. It was interesting. Like, I didn't love it at Arizona State, but I liked the. It's like this quote from movie Role Models. I like the idea of it more than I actually like it. Like him, this switchable 6'9" guy that covers a ton of space and is super mobile and can guard maybe 1 through 5. Like that's intriguing to me. And when he was young and had all this like development potential, great. Now another year's gone by. He's coming off an injury. He's much heavier, which I think was intentional. Like heavier to the point where he looked slow to me in minimal minutes, obviously because of the injury, but like maybe that's why he looks slower, but I have questions at this point. So I think you could still talk yourself into him in that like next post lottery range, just based purely off of like pedigree and like upside of a guy who could be an all world defender if he could stay healthy and move his feet enough. But if he's just this big plodding guy with no jump shot, like that's kind of a tough pick.
Yeah, so I feel like the bottom of this group really does define that drop off,
Sure.
where it's Vasar, Ejiofor, Caravan, Reed, Jefferson all in a row. 5 veteran bigs from really good teams. And every single one of them I look at, I'm like, up this one flaw. And I just don't see them as massive impact, kind of multifaceted bigs for any of those guys. Am I wrong on anyone? Like they all just feel like, oh, they could be decent role players in this league, but
I don't know that any of them are more than role players, so I'm with you there. I do really like Jefferson. He's just the guy I watch where I'm like, all right, super tough, passes really well, probably a better ball handler than he'll need to be for his, the position and role. I think he does a lot of good things defensively, and I actually buy the jumper. So it's like to me, that's if you can get a guy that could be like a fifth starter on a good team eventually, like that's pretty good, and I would take that. And each of those guys have like good role player potential, but the ceiling is just noticeably less high than somebody you'd probably take most years in the 20s.
so beyond them, I'll give you two picks.
Okay.
Guys that you feel like are probably going in the second round that you would just take them if you're an NBA GM.
Uh, this guy's right on the cusp, so this is like a little bit of a cop out, but I keep seeing mock drafts with Malik Thomas in the second round. I would just take him in a heartbeat. Like, where did I end up with him? I have him 18. Like
Yeah,
as
I
just
don't get why he wouldn't be a first round pick, and yet the rankings continue to say that he might not be.
yeah, like all the like, oh, he should have gone back to college stuff. Like, okay, there's some holes there, but on a team with another elite scorer, he averaged 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and shot 42% from three. Like, as a true freshman guard, like that to me is exactly what I would want from a guy somewhere in the 20s. So that one I kind of can't understand from people what I'm missing. So I'd probably be higher on him than most. Let's see. Who else in this range? Okay, so like this is a guy that like people are really kind of hot or cold on. Koa Pete is on here at 25. I would take him around the lottery and never even bat an eyelash at it just because I've seen him be really good at basketball. He was a good mid-range shooter who didn't take threes. They jacked up his jump shot right before the combine and it became this weird janky thing that I'm assuming they'll just fix with a real NBA shooting coach. And now all of a sudden he's a super mobile, rugged power forward who does a lot of good things and has won at every level so far. So that's a guy I think is a no-brainer for me. And 25, I think is way too low.
I'm bringing the question back up again. I feel like you went with too easy answers there.
They're too high. Want me to go lower than that?
Yeah, like
Okay,
so like one of mine, I think I just throw out Otega
sure.
away where I get
Yeah.
that I have no idea what position he is in this league. I don't know if he can hold up defensively, but
Mhm.
if I'm in the mid 40s, I'm just like, hey, you know what? There's going to be a night in January. My two best players are out,
Yep.
and we're playing the Kings or the Grizzlies or something.
Hmm.
I can toss Oweh out there. He might score 25, and
Yeah.
we might win because he's our 11th man.
And he'll play really good
Yeah.
perimeter defense and like just be solid. I think you can trust him in those kind of situations. All right, I'm going real deep cut then. I'm going to go the opposite of things. I love Nick Martinelli. He's 51 on this consensus board, but
See,
like
that's what I'm looking for here.
why? I like he's got good size. He's not a crazy athlete, but you're not really expecting him to be. He would just be a nice offensive piece off the bench. He really improved the three-point shooting, and the guy absolutely just was a bucket for a team that had no other real threats to score. So everyone always knew he was going to be the whole scouting report, and he just still kept scoring anyway. So that's kind of one where I'm confused why, given some of these other guys on here, he's so low. Also, I would just like happily take a bet on either a Kylan Boswell or a Tamin Lipsey if I just needed like perimeter defense because I think they'll guard like at a high level on the perimeter, like almost right out of the gate.
It's interesting because the other one I was thinking of is Malik Brown as just,
Yeah, I've got him high on my board
yeah,
too.
as hey, you're just the next Jared Vanderbilt. And I have
Why
no
can't
idea
he?
if you can play in a conference finals if you ever
Sure.
develop any level of a shot.
Yeah,
And if he does, then he becomes Big Lou Dort.
right.
And so why not? Like he can guard immediately in this league.
Smart player. You don't have to worry about him on that end. And like he could just literally take his role from Duke and do that on an NBA team next year.
Yeah, just be Jared Vanderbilt for
Right.
10 minutes a game for a contender and by game seven of the first round, you might not be usable anymore, but you can
Right.
definitely get a good 82 out of him.
All right, here's one for you. A guy we got to see here in the A10 a good amount for a full season. Oh, we just saw Keyshawn Hall destroy two major conferences as a scorer. I know there's some maturity concerns, but there's no world to me where he can't score by like baskets at an NBA level. So him being like 59 on half these mock drafts is like kind of crazy to me.
That's a pure, I'm looking at what team takes him
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Or if he goes to a bad franchise, he's out of the league in 2 years.
Yeah.
And he
Gonna be
might
just a
be
mess.
anyway, but I want to see him in like San Antonio or Golden State or something, a place
Mm.
where he's going to walk in, someone's going to look him in the eye and just be like, "Okay, you are becoming an adult right now,
Yeah.
or you will never play in the NBA again." And he has to just kind of make his decision, but he has the body for it. He
Yeah, he's gotten a lot better. He's a big ball handler. Like he shoots it well enough, and I don't know. I think that's a straightforward one to me. I think you're right though. The situation is big. The heat might be a little too intense for him, but someone that's going to whip him into shape would be huge.
That's also a perfect, we'll just know in 3 months.
Yeah,
He'll either get cut in training camp
right.
or he'll
Yep,
be scoring 10 points a game off the bench for them in December.
exactly. Yeah, if he just like started a playoff game from Denver 2 seasons from now, I'd be like, "Yep, not shocked." Like, there you go.
I also think Miami would break him.
Yeah,
And
that's just
I think
He and Pat Riley would just one of them would explode, and probably isn't Pat Riley.
that one is a perfect 4 years from now. He's on Fenerbahce. We're watching EuroLeague games on the Plus at 2 in the afternoon. It's like, whoa, remember Keyshawn Hall?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, there
He
we
has
go.
earned 24 a game in the EuroLeague and he looks fat now.
But it works still somehow. Yeah.
All right, so Wizards are at 60.
Yeah.
So I know you've got your kind of wish list. Who are you looking at just thinking this would be the dream outcome to close out the second round?
Hmm. I mean, aside from a couple of the names I mentioned that I'd be happy with
Yeah,
there, like,
we're gonna pretend that like Nick Martinelli's not gonna fall to that spot.
yeah, I think of the guys that are realistic in this kind of range, like a Malik Brown, like we talked about, would be super interesting. I do like a Tamin Lipsey. Gotta talk about our guy here in the A10. I would love Rafael Castro to stay in the district personally as just like another guy with real size and some athleticism that'll push people hard in practice. So that one I could see being like super interesting. I think Tyler Billedell is like kind of underrated. He's like a good shooter for like a big wing. Like someone will make that work. Akpara is just tall enough and big and can block some shots. I would love either a point of attack defender for the Wizards or just like an actual rim protector. So one of those kind of players makes some sense to me. If Jacoby Gillespie falls to 60 or 51, the Wizards' other pick, like cool. Like just take them and don't think twice.
Yeah, I'm kind of just dancing around this like deep sleeper group as you get into the 60s and 70s. Like it, Tuck, I can't figure out if I like Tucker DeVries in the league at all. But I guess if
Doesn't
Bennett
do it for
Sturts
me.
is going to be a first round pick, it feels like there might at least be a roster spot for Tucker DeVries.
I just don't think we just can't seem to get the healthy version of him anymore. So that makes me kind of nervous at this point. I'll give you three names that aren't really on boards in the draftable range that I love personally. First one is Trey White out of Kansas via Illinois, via Louisville, via USC. Like he was everywhere at some point, but just like a really solid. I've got good size. I defend on the wing. I move the ball and I snipe threes. Like that seems like a straightforward one to me. Everybody loves Alan Graves from Santa Clara. Every time I watch them, I was like, hey, Elijah Mahi is so much better as just like a big ball handling 6'8", like bull in a china shop type. So I love him. And then probably the last one that is on like no draft boards anywhere. Every single time I saw Butler, I'm like, dude, Michael Ajayi is so good and plays so hard.
Yeah, I only watched him like twice, and I also was blown away by him.
He's just a really good athlete and is super productive and can't shoot. And the world of looks like if he ever shoots, imagine how much more he could do. And I don't know, I watch at least one of the Champagnes here in DC and we see the other one in the playoffs here. It's like, couldn't he just do that? Like it's similar levels of college production and a lot of it is just like effort based. So I think he's like really being underrated.
My one where I'd just go take a swing on a two-way is do we look up in December and Cade Tyson is just setting the G League on fire?
Yeah, I could see that.
And he's shooting 42%, and all of a sudden he's getting promoted to a full-time in like Utah in February.
Yeah, maybe Denver runs it back with another Tyson brother since it didn't. I mean, he hasn't like overly worked out with Hunter there so far. I think he's still on the roster, but yeah, like played 21 games this year for Denver. So I don't know. Maybe the second Tyson brother would be a better fit in the NBA here.
That's the spot for him,
Yeah,
I would
just
think.
I think that's what they thought with Hunter, and it just hasn't
Yeah.
clicked so far. But I'm with you. Like that kind of move, just be a big shooter would be great.
And when the hell's the last time they've had someone off the bench who was a young guy that could actually make shots?
It doesn't seem to work out super well for them with some of
Yeah.
these guys they've had on the fringes. I would say Calvin Booth is no longer there, probably largely because of exactly that. Like I don't know, Jalen Pickett being better than like Julian Strawther, who they took there, is kind of crazy. Like David Roddy hasn't really worked out. They've just been, I don't know, kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, it's all the defensive guys. It's like Peyton Watson,
Right.
who still can't shoot,
Yeah.
or Christian Brown, who learned how to shoot for like 4 months and then never got it back.
Yeah. Got drafted all of a sudden, and then it's like, nah, I'm good here.
Yeah. But all right, I think we've basically covered everything on this board up and down. I mean,
So
I'm
give me
looking at
your Castro take. Is he an NBA player?
what the hell? I know David asked me this in January at one point.
Uh-huh.
Um, Also, if the Wizards take Castro, I'm muting David Korn for like a week. It's going to be bad. But
There's gonna be a lot of just propaganda here in the area. I love that.
I I wonder if he's too slow. And that's the thing that's kind of held me back from the very beginning.
Hmm.
And if it's 2 years earlier, I don't think he has a shot at making the NBA.
None.
But now
Yeah.
that people like centers again,
Yeah.
he he was never he was never as great of a defender, at least I thought, as what he got the accolades for. Like
Yeah.
people
Agreed.
constantly throwing him out there as an A10 potential defensive player of the year. I thought he was good. I never thought he was great. I think at the NBA level, he drops down to just kind of average.
Hmm.
If he can find a way to get better on that end, he becomes a rotation player. But the whole like back to the basket or give him the ball at the foul line thing and let him work, I don't see where that eventually lands. I think he's a great G League experiment guy.
Sure.
And if you can find a way to turn him into a better shooter and a little bit more physical of a defender, he could become a guy and he's worth that project time. But he's not someone I would expect to see NBA impact from in the next 2 years.
I said the same thing about my other local guy here in Julian Reese, and then just because he played really hard and certain stretches of the season guys don't want to, like that works. And I could see Raphael doing that. So like on a two-way, I'm all for trying it out and see if he can work on those things you talked about. So I think it's worth it. And he's a good character guy and a nice dude and will fit in kind of well in the locker room too.
Yeah, and that's a guy I now we've talked about good situations. That's a guy if I'm just a crappy team that still has a good development system,
Mhm.
then I'd take a chance, like a Utah or somebody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we don't really give a crap if you play it all this year, but we'll send you to Salt Lake City Stars. Is that their G League team?
Yeah.
I can't think of it
Yeah.
off the top of my head, but yeah, just we'll give you a couple years and we'll see if maybe you could be a good backup for us down the road.
Makes sense to me.
So, all right, this is probably about as much NBA draft talk as people are gonna want to tolerate on this weird little pod. But Matt Modderno, you do so much more than just draft coverage. So where can all the people find you?
Yeah, Lost Sleepers Media at Matt Modderno on Twitter. Happy to talk. Love the A10. Another A10 fan here. So if you're listening to this, I'm kind of on the same page with you guys and listener of the pod here. So appreciate you having me on, and it's always good to chop it up.
Yeah, always great. Matt, thank you for joining me.